The Cult Dynamics of Wokeness by James Lindsay, who has just started a new website, newdiscourses.com, where people can actually speak freely. Tonight at 9 o'clock, I'm going over the most dangerous cult in America, and it's the same cult we're talking about now. And our guest tonight is going to be Adam Carolla. Based on just what he has said recently, I'm not going to bow down to anybody. I am not playing this game. And, you know, when you look at what's happening, this is becoming a religion. You are a sinner unless they say you're saved. And if you don't bow down to their God, you've got to be destroyed. You're part of the evil that is going on. And it's becoming very, very dangerous. Now, we've been talking about the steps on getting you into this cult with cult initiation, and then there's cult indoctrination, and then cult reprogramming. And this is really dangerous because this goes beyond just saying, you know, you got to say the right thing and don't say, you know, don't engage in wrong think. But this actually goes now right deep into Marx. Am I correct on that, James?
You are, actually. That is where, if you really trace this back, it's evolved. It's much different. You mentioned that I've got the book Cynical Theories coming out in August, and that book traces one element of how this has evolved, the postmodern element, which is also rooted in Marx. And so it does. That's what this is. And so what people don't understand and why this is so dangerous about this woke cult is that it's not just some wacky kids on college campuses or their professors or people in the media saying weird things. They actually have been taught to think in a different way, a completely different way. And the way that works is by getting people to do little steps. You just mentioned the bowing down or taking the knee or whatever it is. They get you to do little steps that increase your commitment, right? So you say there was a thing that they just showed from the autonomous zone in Seattle where they gave a speech. It went viral. And the deal was, you need to go find a black person and give them $10 or you're not really committed. That was the statement that the guy made. It's kind of like tithing. But the thing is it costs you money. It's something the guy even says you won't want to do this. And if you don't, it's because you're not committed. It's a step to make you do something symbolic and costly to make you identify yourself as a person who believes in this cause. And so they start to reprogram you. They've already indoctrinated you with the ideas by making you read the literature and do the work. And again, this is a process. It doesn't just happen. It's like the stages kind of blend together and mix together. And then they get you to do costly things like humiliate yourself or make public declarations crying in front of a camera about how sorry you are and then still keep firing you afterwards. They make you give up your job. They make you give money to causes or to people. All these things are meant to build commitment, to see yourself more and more and more as the kind of person who participates in this cult. And like I said, the goal is to get you to think in a particular way that nobody really recognizes. That's where the Marxism, that's where the neo-Marxism, and that's where the postmodernism come into this. That's how they want you to think.
This is conflict theory. This is Marx's conflict theory, which I don't think very many of us even know what that means. So explain conflict theory.
Marx is, a lot of the people associate, they hear Marx and they just think communism, and that's the end of it. Marx's most dangerous and most important idea was conflict theory. What he believed is, and what he pushed is, and what that spirit of Marxism that's pushing through to wokeness today is the belief that society has different social groups that have different social standing, poor, rich, capitalist, versus proletariat, whatever it is, different ones, and they are automatically in conflict. They're at war with one another for status and opportunity. Now the matter is race and other factors of identity like sexuality and gender and so on, but it was economics with Marx. So this is that same idea that these different categories have different levels of status in society, and they're automatically at war with one another. So one of the ways this cult makes you think is I belong to an identity group. In fact, I identify with an identity group, and that identity group is at war with the other identity groups. Yeah, that's dark.
So James, you go into how to get people out of this cult, and you don't. There's not a lot of hope there.
It's hard.
On that.
It's really hard to get somebody out of a cult. Luckily, like I said, most people aren't in the cult at the moment. A lot of people are really having their first sincere encounter with it, and I keep hearing now letters I get from people where people are kind of taking it on. They're reading it, and then they're saying, what is this? You know, they read Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility. It's very difficult. I'm not going to call Robin DiAngelo any names, but it's very difficult to read that book. I've read it a few times now and come away with all you can think is, wow, this woman is struggling with her own issues about race and has written it down and basically said everybody's racist because she can't deal with her own problem. That's the feeling you get. And so a lot of people are identifying that, and they're kind of, I see a lot of people taking it up, but a lot of people rejecting it too, which means there is hope. There is the ability, in fact, what usually gets people out of a cult when you can do it, especially when it's in a very early stage, is getting them to see the unfairness, getting them to see how inhumane it is, or getting them to see the contradictions. A good example is White Fragility. When you read it the way that Robin DiAngelo puts it, it sounds all kind of nice, but something is off. I hear that over and over again. Something's off, but okay. But if you highlight what's off, White Fragility is a doctrine that says if you're accused of racism or white fragility itself, and you say, no, that's not true, or you just say, I'm not going to do this, that's supposed to be you exhibiting white fragility, which means racism. So when you boil that down, it means that white fragility says there are two kinds of people who have racial privilege in the world. One of those is a racist who's willing to admit it, and the other is a racist who's too fragile to admit it. So it basically says everybody's a racist. And when people see that, they say, this is crap. When they see that no matter what you do once you're accused of racism, it just proves your racism, people aren't stupid. We're not stupid. We know what a kangaroo court looks like. We know what something bogus is. And so that kind of thing can snap people out of it.
This is more than a kangaroo court. This is more like, I think, the Salem witch trials. You know, if you're accused of being a witch and you say you're not a witch, that's exactly what a witch would say. What did you just say?
That is how history will write this chapter of our time, is that this was a new, whether it's Salem or whether it's the European ones, which were much more deadly. This is a new period of witch trials in which the witches are racists. The time before was that you were in collusion with Satan, or you were in collusion with the devil, or you had demonic influence, all this invisible stuff. And then if you denied it, well, that's what somebody who had demonic influence would say. So clearly you must be a witch. And now you're a racist. And if you deny it, you must therefore be a racist. And so they even say it in their literature, though, right? It's not even fair. They say there's no such thing as not racist. No such thing as it. It's impossible. So you can either be racist or you can be anti-racist, but still also necessarily racist. Anti-racists are also racist because there's no not racist.
Except for them.
No, that's the thing. That's why this is so dangerous. They believe that everybody's racist and there are only two types of people. They are also racist. They're the people who will go and cry and confess to it and dig themselves deeper into the cult. And those are the relatively good people. And then there are the racists who won't dare admit it. And those are the bad people.
Wow. James,
you get
I can't thank
Lady
you.
Macbeth feeling, right? Out.
Oh, yeah.
You can't wash it off yeah.
Yes. Hang on. Stu, I think, has a question.
Yeah, James,
Stu.
quickly, because this is really amazing to hear this stuff. Is this the same thing that's sort of echoed in the crazy sort of self-punishing celebrity videos that we see where they apologize for everything and take responsibility for all the terrible actions they've apparently been a part of all these years?
Absolutely. That's them, reacting to that emotional manipulation. So they're told that, you're complicit in racism, then they get this emotional vulnerability, this guilt, this shame. Guilt and shame are the main ones that they're playing upon. And then they have to take this action. And what do? I take responsibility for it. And they're crying and so on and so forth, getting very emotional and trying to induce emotional reactions in the people watching it. Taking responsibility, though, is showing commitment and learning to identify as a person who thinks that way. That's exactly an example of this.